Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Today we're going to continue the ultrastructure of the cell that we were studying. I know that there has been a gap of 4 years, 4 days. That's why I'm going to quickly repeat what we did last Thursday, right? So we were studying the ultrastructure of mitochondria, and we touched endosymbiont theory, that how endosymbiont theory is related with mitochondria. So I'll just quickly give you a review in 2 minutes. So the ultrastructure of mitochondria. All right. So as you already know that mitochondria is common between plants and animal cells. Plant cells also have mitochondrions, and animal cells, they also have a mitochondria, right? Now, how does the mitochondria work? What is the function? We have started that the basic function is to release energy that is trapped in the glucose molecule, particularly in the glucose molecule, right? It is a two-membrane structure, like it is wrapped up by two membranes, right? The outer membrane is smooth, just like this. Whereas we studied that the inner membrane is folded. It forms infoldings, right? And this is the outer membrane that is smooth. This is the inner membrane that is folded. And these infoldings of the inner membrane, these are called cristae, right? So cristae make up the internal structure of the mitochondria, right? This entire area that is covered up by cristae is also filled with a fluid, right? And this makes up what? The mitochondrial matrix, right? Fluid along with the infoldings of the mitochondria makes up the mitochondrial matrix. Now, in these cristae are present enzymes, molecules made up of proteins that assist or that help in the process of respiration. That means that mitochondria is the respiration center, but respiration actually takes place where? In these cristae, right? So it contains what? Respiratory enzymes. Now this was all basic that we've already done, right? And I told you that there is a structure known as porin, right? A porin protein that allows the movement of water, that allows the movement of glucose inward towards the mitochondria. That's how this works, right? The difficult part that I got messages from you that you haven't understood clearly was the endosymbiont theory, right? So I'm repeating that endosymbiont theory today for you, right? So we discussed that there is a theory known as the endosymbiont theory. We describe endosymbiont theory as the theory that explains how a eukaryotic cell came into being from a prokaryotic cell. I hope you all remember what are prokaryotic cells. Cells that have no nucleus and cells that do not have any organelles in them, they're called prokaryotic cells. And we strongly believe that prokaryotic cells gave rise to eukaryotic cells, that are today's cells, right? This was probably the first cell of the world, right? And now the cells that exist are known as the eukaryotic cells. Now, endosymbiotic theory or the endosymbiont theory, right? That explains how a mitochondria actually came into being, and we have a few proofs of that as well, right? So the theory states that there were two organisms initially, organism A and an organism B, right? So there were two organisms and both of them were prokaryotic organisms, right? A was also prokaryotic and B was also prokaryotic. The major difference was A was aerobic, whereas B was anaerobic, right? So they were both prokaryotic organisms, one of them being aerobic and the other one being anaerobic, right? Now what happened? Organism B engulfed organism A, right? This organism A was eaten by organism B, right? So the organism A reached inside the body or the cell of the organism A. What happened? Instead of digesting this cell, organism B formed a relationship, a mutually beneficial relationship with this organism. Why? Because aerobic respiration releases more energy. Now, because more energy was being released, that means this was getting more energy without doing any extra effort, right? So hence, they developed a mutual relationship. A mutual relationship between two cells is known as symbiosis, right? The word that we use for the relationship is symbiosis. Hence the word symbiont. Endo, inside. Because this symbiotic relationship was established inside another cell, hence we term the theory as the endosymbiont theory, right? So this did not happen obviously overnight, right? It took thousands of years for this process to take place, for this common relationship to develop, for this symbiotic relationship to develop, right? What proof do we have today that this organism has now converted into a mitochondrion? First proof that we have is that mitochondria has its own DNA, and that DNA does not resemble our DNA. That DNA resembles the DNA of a prokaryotic cell. So that is termed as a circular DNA. Now, because it has a circular DNA, this is a proof that this was once a prokaryotic organism. That's why it has properties of a prokaryotic organism. Second thing that it has is ribosomes. It has ribosomes, but these ribosomes, again, I'm making a star on the differences. These ribosomes do not resemble our ribosomes. Our ribosomes have the size 80S, whereas these ribosomes have the size 70S. So another theory that proves, or another point that proves that this mitochondria was once an organism, then it established a mutual relationship with another organism. That's why we call it endosymbiont theory, and started living permanently inside, turning into an organelle, right? One more thing, mitochondria is capable of replicating. When your body needs more energy, when you're working more and your body needs to release more energy because it needs more energy for the extra work that you're doing, mitochondria, they start increasing in number. So again, one more property that they can replicate themselves proves that it was once a living thing, once a living organism, which has now transformed into an organelle, right? Okay. The same theory is true for chloroplasts. So before we discuss other organelles, we will discuss chloroplasts side by side mitochondria as well, right? I hope you remember the size of a mitochondria was about 1 micrometer. You need to remember these sizes, right, for your MCQ questions. So this is the entire basis of the endosymbiont. Chloroplast is present only in a plant cell. Chloroplast is absent in the case of animal cells. Chloroplast is the organelle that is responsible for photosynthesis, the process by which plants make their food, right? The process by which plants synthesize their food is termed as photosynthesis. So we'll be studying the ultrastructure of a chloroplast. All right. So primary thing that I told you, that it is present only where? It exists only in the plant cells. It does not exist in the case of animal cells. Number two, it is responsible for the process of photosynthesis. Photo means light, synthesis means to make, right? So the process by which plants make their food in the presence of light, that process is termed as photosynthesis. So this is the process that occurs in the chloroplast, right? Chloroplast's number may vary depending upon the part of the plant. The parts of the plant that are greener, right? They have more chloroplast as compared to the parts of the plant that are not green in color, right? Okay, so chloroplast contains pigments known as chlorophyll. Chlorophyll other colors. Like you have red color in flowers, you have yellow color in flowers, you have other colors in flowers, right? They're not caused by chloroplast, obviously. So actually, chloroplast belongs to a group of organelles, and that group of organelles is basically called plastids. Chloroplast is a type of a plastid, right? There are three types of plastids, 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 being chloroplast, that you all know and are very familiar with, that causes the green color of the plant. The second type of the plastid is known as chromoplast. So the green color is caused by chloroplast, and any other color, that is red, in plants. Leucoplast stores fats in the case of plants, right? So basically the organelle chloroplast is actually called a plastid. It's a type of a plastid, right? So chloroplastids has three types. It is known as chloroplast, chromoplast, and leucoplast. Chloroplast, that we will be studying in detail, chloroplast actually gives the green color to the plant that contains the pigment chlorophyll. Chromoplast gives any other color to the plant, all other colors that are yellow, red, whatever color that other colors that plant contains, they are because of the chromoplast. And leucoplast, that is usually used for food storage and envelope. It has an envelope, but unlike mitochondria, it is not folded. The envelope is not folded. The envelope is smooth. So if I draw a chloroplast, it will have a double membrane structure. Just like this. Right? So it has a double membrane and a double envelope around it, right? Just like mitochondria, because here also photosynthesis has to take place, so we need energy. So before we begin with the process, let's just do the structure first. It contains a system of membranes, right? How are those membranes arranged? Those membranes are stacked on top of each other, just like this. Just like you put a lot of coins on top of each other, like this. Right? And they are interlinked. They're linked with each other, like this. It's just a membrane with fluid filled, right? This is called the word is thylakoid membrane. A lot of thylakoid membranes stacking over each other. We call this entire stack as granum. This entire stack of thylakoid membranes is called a granum. Singular granum, 1, 2, 3, so we'll call it grana. This is singular and the plural word is grana. So a mitochondria has many grana in it, right? And the grana are made up of what? Thylakoid membranes. A single rounded structure is called a thylakoid membrane. A fluid present, and this entire area, all the grana with the fluid, we have a word for them, and the word is stroma. It's not called a matrix. Just like a mitochondrial matrix, the inward foldings of Christie along with the fluid, along with all the enzymes, that was termed as mitochondrial matrix. In the case of chloroplast, the system of grana, along with the fluid there, along with the enzymes, everything that's contained within the bilayer of membrane, that is termed as stroma. We use the word stroma. So you've learned three new words, right? Stroma, thylakoid membranes, and grana or granum. I'm quickly repeating this up. Chloroplast is the organelle. Just like a mitochondria, it has two membranes. Hence, we call it that it has an envelope. But unlike mitochondria, both the membranes are smooth. In the case of mitochondria, the outer membrane was smooth, whereas the inner membrane was folded, right, forming Christie. Here, in this case, that does not happen. In this case, both the membranes are smooth, right? Okay. The space inside the membrane, that is covered up by stacks of thylakoid membranes. What are thylakoid membranes? Simply membranes forming a sac-like structure filled with a fluid, and that fluid contains chlorophyll, right? They are termed as thylakoid membranes. Thylakoid membranes stacked on top of each other, what do they form? Grana, or singular granum. All of them collectively are called grana. Grana, along with all the fluid present, all the enzymes present, that is termed as the chloroplast. How does this chloroplast function now? What is the function? Like I told you, that the function is photosynthesis. It has to make food. It is the food making factory for the plants, right? Now, how does it make it food? That's what we'll be studying. So basically, I told you that these grana or these thylakoid membranes, they contain the enzymes that are responsible for photosynthesis, and they contain chlorophyll, right? The pigment that, right? So chlorophyll is present in. So you call it the light reaction, or more appropriately, light dependent reaction. The second term is termed as the dark reaction or the light independent reaction. Right? So there is a light dependent reaction, and then there is a light independent reaction that occurs inside the chloroplast, right? What are the two reactions? You will be studying in detail in A2. There's a whole chapter on chloroplast, but there are a few things that you need to know now, that you need to make points for yourself now. Of light energy. Your book says that ADP is converted to ATP. I hope you remember from mitochondria. This is what mitochondria also does, right? It converts ADP or AMP to ATP. That generates energy, right? So that is what it does for itself. That means chloroplast does not need energy from mitochondria or from the cell. Chloroplast can make its own energy, can release its own energy, because chloroplast is capable of trapping light and converting that light energy into the form of ATP. It's converting the light energy into chemical energy, because light energy cannot be used directly by the plant cell or animal cell, right? It has to be converted into a usable form. The usable form of energy is ATP. So light energy is trapped in the light dependent, that therefore it's called light dependent reaction, right? So light energy is trapped, and that light energy is converted into ATP. Now, the next thing that happens, then this ATP is used to break down water, to split water, right? So the second thing that occurs during the light dependent reaction is splitting of water molecule. You remember, I hope you have studied in your O3 that even electrolysis, that only electrolysis of water can break it down. Obviously, that kind of energy cannot be used in the cells, right? So we use the energy from light to break down water into its components, that's hydrogen and oxygen, right? Because we need hydrogen to reduce the carbon dioxide molecule for glucose to be formed, right? So what happens is that the splitting of water takes place. That's termed as hydrolysis of water. Hydrolysis, right? Or, sorry, we call it photolysis. Photolysis of water, because this happens in the presence of light. So hence, photolysis of water takes place. Water is broken down into hydrogen and oxygen, right? Hydrogen atoms and oxygen molecules. Now, the hydrogen atoms hence formed are highly reactive. They're so reactive, or I'll have to balance it, I guess. 2 here and 4 here, right? So what happens? Hydrogen atoms that are formed are so reactive that they quickly reduce the carbon dioxide molecule and convert it to glucose molecule, right? This entire process, as you might have studied in mitochondria as well, I know that you won't understand it fully right now because you haven't studied the processes, but we use the word Krebs cycle. Mitochondria में क्या होता है? Krebs cycle takes place. That Krebs cycle uses the transportation of electrons. The transportation of electrons requires membranes. Just like that's why we have Christie, inward foldings of the membrane. Just like that, in the case of chloroplast, because ATP is being synthesized, so we need a system of membranes for electron transport chain, ETC. That stands for electron transport chain to take place. Movement of electrons is going to generate energy, right? So because that is why we have this system of membranes, because electrons need to move. When electrons and hydrogen will move across membranes, energy will be released in the form of ATP, right? So therefore, like both mitochondria and chloroplast has a system of membranes because movement of electrons and hydrogen is required across the membrane to release ATP, right? So this was all about the two processes at a light dependent reaction, right? Now, in the case of light independent reaction, what happens? In the case of light independent reaction, this hydrogen that is released in the case of the photolysis of water, this hydrogen is going to convert carbon dioxide into the molecule of glucose, right? I'm writing it down on that side. I'm making an arrow for you to understand the light independent reaction. The most important process that occurs is the reduction of carbon dioxide. I hope you all remember from chemistry what reduction of carbon dioxide is. So reduction of carbon dioxide takes place, right? That is, this hydrogen acts on carbon dioxide, converting it to, this hydrogen acts on carbon dioxide, converting it to a glucose. Obviously, it's not this simple. It takes place in a number of steps. And this process, reduction of carbon dioxide to the molecule of glucose, it has a name. Just like the breakdown of glucose has a name, Krebs cycle. The formation of glucose has a name, and that name is Calvin cycle. So Calvin cycle takes place where? In the light independent reaction. You will be studying this in detail in A2, not right now, it's not required. The only main points that were required, I've explained them to you in detail already. I'll quickly revise this entire thing up for you to understand clearly, and then we'll move on to the endosymbiont theory, how that endosymbiont theory applies to the chloroplast, right? So the structure, I hope this is clear. I'll just be revising photosynthesis with you quickly. So photosynthesis means the synthesis of food in the presence of light, the synthesis of glucose in the presence of light, right? So photosynthesis has two basic steps or two basic parts of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis has a light dependent reaction and a light independent reaction, right? In the case of light dependent reaction, what happens? There are two major steps that take place. There are other steps, but there are two major ones that take place. Number one, trapping of light energy, the light that is being absorbed by the thylakoid membranes, to be more particular, by the chlorophyll in the thylakoid membrane, and that light energy is being converted to ATP. Why do we need this ATP? We need this ATP to break down the molecule of water. The molecule of water needs to be broken down into hydrogen and oxygen. That is termed as photolysis of water. Why am I calling it photolysis? Because it is using ATP that are being made by light energy. So in actual, light energy is actually splitting the molecule of water, right? Whatever energy is required, that will not be obtained from the cell, will not be taking that energy, the plant will not be taking that energy from the cell's cytoplasm. That energy will be created or will be made, converted, the light energy will be converted into ATP, and then this ATP will be used in the splitting of the water molecule for the photolysis of water, releasing hydrogen atoms and oxygen molecules, right? This hydrogen atom hence released is highly reactive because it's nascent hydrogen, right? You all know that this is not stable, so it needs to react, right? Hence, it acts upon carbon dioxide, reducing this carbon dioxide. Addition of hydrogen is termed as reduction, right? So in carbon dioxide, hydrogen is being added, hence we use the term reduction of carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide molecule is reduced to a glucose molecule. This process, reduction of carbon dioxide to glucose molecule, is termed as the Calvin cycle. That means Krebs cycle takes place in mitochondria, and Kelvin cycle takes place where? In the stroma of the chloroplast, right? Now, as a result, the glucose that is made, that is converted to starch, right? The glucose made, because immediately it won't travel, so it is converted to starch. And these starch granules, the granules of starch, are stored where? In the stroma. So जितनी speed से the photosynthesis will take place, उतनी speed से the starch granules will be formed, right? So these starch granules are stored in the stroma, and then they are transported via phloem to wherever they are required by the plant cell, right? Or by the entire plant, right? So this was all about it. And the electron transport chain that I talked about, I'll just quickly go through it. It happens both in Krebs cycle and in Kelvin cycle as well, right? What do we mean by electron transport chain? Electrons move across membranes, and I'll be specific, not just electrons, hydrogen ions, right? So electrons and hydrogen ions, they both move across membranes, and their movement generates ATP. This phenomena is termed as electron transport chain. Hence, both mitochondria and chloroplast, they both have a system of membranes. Please write this down somewhere, that this similarity is because of the electron transport chain, because both use the electron transport chain. Mitochondria has cristae, whereas chloroplast has thylakoid membranes, right? The system of membranes is to assist, or is to facilitate the process of the movement of electrons and hydrogen in the electron transport chain, right? Now, the last linkage with the mitochondria, that is the endosymbiote theory, right? How endosymbiosis is linked to this as well, right? I'll just quickly erase this part up. Now, what happens? As you all remember, the endosymbiont theory. Endo means inside, symbiont means a mutual relationship, right? So in the case of mitochondria, what happened? There were two organisms, endosymbiont theory. That holds true for chloroplast as well. So just like mitochondria, scientists believe that there were two organisms, an organism A and an organism B. Now, the organism A was an autotroph. What are autotrophic organisms? The ones that can make their own food, just like plants. All the plants are autotrophic. They do not need to eat, right? They can make their own food by sunlight, by oxygen, by water. They can make their own food. They're termed as autotrophic, right? And the organisms that cannot make their own food and they need environment to provide them food, they are termed as heterotrophic. So we had two organisms, autotrophic and heterotrophic. A was autotrophic, that is photosynthetic, whereas B was heterotrophic, it used to eat other cells. So because this one used to eat other cells, this engulfed cell A. This cell A was eaten up or was engulfed by cell B. Cell A moved inside, hence endo, moved inside the cell. Now, this got a benefit. Without moving, without eating any other cell, this was getting energy. How? Because this was doing photosynthesis inside. So this cell decided not to digest it, just like the aerobic and anaerobic cell. A mutual relationship developed. Cell A was getting protection, and it was getting a little bit of food for itself as well, and cell B was getting food, right? So this cell did not digest cell A, and the mutual relationship, and over years, over billions and millions of years, what happened? A mutual relationship is associated, and this cell A changed into the today's chloroplast. We have the same proofs that we have for mitochondria. Proof number one, chloroplast has its own DNA, just like mitochondria, and the DNA is circular. So, proof number one that you have is a circular DNA. We know that we do not have a circular DNA. Who have circular DNA? Prokaryotic cells. That means years ago, this chloroplast was actually a prokaryotic cell. Number two, second proof, it has its own ribosomes. Just like mitochondria, it has ribosomes. Now, again, these ribosomes do not resemble eukaryotic ribosomes. These ribosomes resemble prokaryotic ribosomes. They are 70S in size, right? Also, chloroplast is capable of replicating just like mitochondria. When you have shortage of energy in your cells, mitochondria replicate. Just like that, when it needs to make, plants need to make more food, chloroplasts start replicating. So this property, again, their capability to replicate, their capability to reproduce, because replication is not a property of organelles, replication is a property of individual cells or individual organisms. Because this can also replicate, hence this is also termed, like we suppose that this theory is true for chloroplast as well as for mitochondria, right? They can change their orientation, they can change their position depending upon the availability of light. So that means they are sensitive to light. They can move towards or they can move away from light. Again, sensitivity is a property of living things, not of organelles. So these properties actually prove that endosymbiotic theory is somehow true for both mitochondria and for chloroplast. Now we are left with only 3 or 4 organelles. What I want you to do today is read through whatever we have done. Tomorrow I'll be assigning you a worksheet as well once we finish all the organelles. We have left only 3 organelles, I think. We'll finishing it up inshallah tomorrow, right? But before we begin, please do read this entire thing up and then ask me questions if you have any. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz. Have a good day.